Hey English learners, welcome back to the final part of our Modal Verbs lesson series. So far, we've covered all the uses of could and should, and also the difference between could, would, and should. If you haven't watched the previous lessons, there's a link in the description. Do watch them. Today we will focus on one of the most versatile and commonly used modal verbs in English, would. Now people often get confused, especially when it comes to use of would have, would be, or would go. That's why this lesson will break down all the uses of would with simple grammar rules and a lot of examples. So are you ready? Come on, let's get started. First, what is would? Would is a modal verb used to express politeness, imagined situations, past habits, future in the past, which is the most important use, and hypothetical conditionals. It means you can use it in conditional sentences. The grammar structure is very simple. We use subject plus would plus base verb. And with all the subjects, we can use would. Now let's understand all the uses of would in more detail. The first and the most important use of would is to talk about future in the past. Sounds interesting, right? Now, would is used to describe the future from the perspective of the past. Confused? Let me explain. Take a look at this sentence. I think it will rain on Sunday. Now, imagine you're talking on Friday, that is in the past. And on that day, you were talking about something that was supposed to happen in the future. It means it was supposed to rain, meaning you expected that to happen on a Saturday or Sunday. Now, this sentence is correct if you're saying it on Friday, because on Friday, you're in the present and you're talking about a future event that is either to happen on a Saturday or Sunday. But now, say for example, it's Monday, that's today, and you're reporting what you said on Friday. So will you say, I thought it will rain on Sunday? Now this is the most common mistake what people make. The correct sentence would be, I thought it would rain on Sunday and not will rain on Sunday. Because you're no longer in the present. You're looking back at a past moment, which is Friday, when you predicted something in the future, that is on a Sunday. So will becomes would to show it was a future idea from a past moment. I hope you got it. If you haven't, let's understand it with more examples. She will call me tomorrow. For example, you said this on Friday. But on Monday you will say, she said she would call me and not will call me. Now here we are connecting a past thinking to a future action. Here's one more example. We will finish the project by today. Now this possibly you said last week. But if you're talking about it today, you're going to say, we believed we would finish the project by today. Now here you're connecting a past belief to a future plan. You know, it's like the past version of will. I hope you understood the first use of would perfectly. Now let's move on to the second use of would. We use would in polite requests and offers. We often use would to ask or offer something in a polite or respectful way. For example, would you like some coffee? Would you help me with this form? Would you mind opening the window? I would love to join you for dinner. Now it sounds softer than will or can. Now you'll always use would in formal or professional settings because it sounds more respectful and formal. I hope this use was pretty easy to understand. Now let's move on to another important use of would. Would is used in imaginary or unreal situations, which means in second conditional sentences. We use would in sentences that describe imaginary, unreal, or hypothetical situations. Things that are not true right now, but we imagine them just for the sake of discussion. Here, would is often used to talk about dreams or wishes, express unreal situations in the present or future, or to give imaginary advice or predictions. Let's look at the grammar structure. First, we use the if clause plus a past simple verb, then a comma, followed by a subject plus would plus the base verb. Take a look at this example. If I had more money, I would travel the world. Do I have money? I don't have money now, but I'm imagining what I would do if I had money. The if clause with the past tense describes something unreal or imaginary. That is, if I had more money. And the would clause shows what could happen if that imaginary situation were true. Now, even though we use the past tense in the if part, we are actually talking about the present or future and not the past. And that's why this is called the unreal conditional. Here are some more examples. If she were here, she would help us. But she isn't here. This is an imaginary situation. If they studied harder, they would pass the exam. Do they study enough? Not, right? So this is a hypothetical condition. If I were the boss, I would give everyone a raise. Now, I'm not the boss. I'm just imagining that I am. Now, an important thing to note. We use were instead of was. When we talk about unreal or imaginary situations, we use were for all the subjects. We never say, if I was you, I would do this. We always say, if I were you, I would do this. Keep this in mind. Now let's move on to the next use of would, to talk about past habits. We often use would to talk about repeated actions or routines in the past, things someone did regularly and again in the past. This is like similar to using used to, but there's one key difference. Would is used for past actions only, not for past states or feelings. But used to can be used for both actions and states. Keep that in mind. Let's look at some examples. When I was a child, I would play outside until dark. Now, this was a repeated action in the past. My grandmother would tell us stories every night. So she did it regularly as a habit. Every summer, we would visit our cousins in the village. Now, this was a yearly routine in the past. He would always forget his lunch during school days. Now, this is a repeated behavior in the past. I hope you understood how to use would for past habits. Now, let's move on to the fifth use of would, to express willingness or preference. Now, would is commonly used to talk about what someone is willing to do, or refuses to do, or prefers to do, either now or in the past. For example, I would help you if I had more time. Now, here would shows that someone is ready or willing to do something. He would not listen no matter what I said. So here would is used to talk about something someone refused to do, especially when describing past events. I would rather stay in tonight than go out. She would prefer tea over coffee. Now, in both these sentences, when talking about choices or what you like, we always use would rather or would prefer. This is more common in spoken English. Alright, moving on to the sixth use of would. That's would have plus past participle. We use this structure, would have plus past participle, to talk about something that did not happen in the past, but we are imagining what could have happened. So it's mainly used to express regret about it. So when we use would have, we are thinking about a different version of the past. What you wished or expected to happen, but it didn't. Now, this is often used in third conditional sentences when describing an imaginary past situation and their results. The structure is something like this: if plus past perfect plus subject plus would have plus past participle. Here is an example to understand it better. If I had known, I would have helped you. So the first part of the sentence, if I had known, this is an unreal condition in the past. Did I know about it? No, right? So it's an unreal condition. The second part, I would have helped. This is an imaginary result in the past. I hope you got the difference. You're just imagining the result of the first part of the sentence. This entire sentence describes a situation that did not really happen. I hope that was pretty easy to understand. Let's understand it better with some more examples. I would have called you, but I lost my phone. So first part of the sentence says, I wanted to call you, but I couldn't because why? I lost my phone. It's a regret about a missed action. She would have won the match if she had practiced more. She didn't practice enough, so she lost. So this is an imaginary past result. We would have arrived earlier if we hadn't got stuck in traffic. We were late, but we were imagining a different situation. They would have enjoyed the trip, but the weather was terrible. They didn't enjoy it, but in better weather, they would have. I hope the use of would have plus past participle is pretty clear to you. Now let's move on to the last use of would, that is would in reported speech. This is also one of the most important uses of would. Just like could and should, would is used in indirect or reported speech. Now what is reported speech? Reported speech is when we tell someone what another person said in the past, not using their exact words but reporting it. And when the original sentence contains the modal verb will, we change it to would in the reported speech. Why do we do that? Because we are moving one step back in the past, and would is the past form of will. Let's understand it with an example. He said, I will call you. Now this is direct speech. He said he would call me. This is reported speech. Now why do we use would instead of will? Because we are no longer in the original moment. We are looking back at what someone said in the past. So we also shift the tense of their future plan. It's about keeping the grammar time consistent. Here are some more examples. She said, I will help you tomorrow. This is direct speech. In reported speech, we would say, she said she would help me the next day. So even tomorrow becomes the next day. They said, we will arrive by 6 p.m. They said, we would arrive by 6 p.m. So those were all the uses of would. Now it's time to test your understanding. You have 4 questions on your screen and you need to fill the blanks either with would or would have. Take your time, take a screenshot if you want, and drop your answers in the comments. I would love to read your answers. So that's all for today. This completes our Modal Verb English lesson series. Now you've mastered could, should, and would with all their uses. If you haven't watched the previous lessons, do watch them. If you enjoyed this lesson, give it a like, share it with your friends who are learning English because they might really need these kind of lessons. I'm going to see you soon with another interesting lesson. Until then, keep learning and keep practicing English. Bye for now.